Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about my birth plan. I got a few people requesting that I do this on Instagram and YouTube just to kind of give you guys an idea of how I want my birth to go in a few weeks, maybe even 2 weeks or less. So let's just get right into it. Like I said, I'm 38 weeks today on the dot. By the time you guys are seeing this, I'll be 38 weeks in 1 day. Yeah, it's getting real. The baby is huge. She's the size of a watermelon, I think, according to my app, but pretty much she's the size of a baby, so she could be here any day. Honestly, we have been preparing for our birth at home, so we are having a home birth, inshallah. If God wills it, we are having a home birth. Everything looks good with me health-wise, which is really good right now. That is our plan, and I'm basically going to explain when we decided we wanted to have a home birth and why. So I guess I'll start with when I first got pregnant. When I found out I was pregnant in December 2019, at first I really didn't think too much about how I wanted to give birth. I guess I just assumed I'd be in a hospital. In the beginning of my pregnancy, I was going to an OBGYN. I actually still go, but I was only going to an OBGYN, and I was pretty much gearing up to give birth in the hospital. We had already, established which hospital we were gonna go to. I was actually very pleased with the hospital. Like, I've never been a fan of hospitals. That's number one about me. I've never been a fan of hospitals, period. I knew that I wasn't gonna be 100% comfortable, but if I had to go to the hospital, I was glad that it was the hospital we picked, if that makes sense. Like, it's a really good hospital. That was the plan. We're gonna go to the hospital. So once I got to my second trimester, I really started to do a lot more research. I've done a lot of research throughout my pregnancy. That's like the main thing I've been doing, is just trying to educate myself on my body, my options. Like, I did a lot of research. Definitely at first I was like, I want a pain-free experience. I don't want to feel anything. Like, I just want to go in, get an epidural. I want my, birth to be just painless. That was like my whole thought process at first, before I started even doing a lot of research or even thinking that seriously about it. That is what was going through my mind. Like, I don't want to feel anything down there. But then after kind of doing a little soul searching and after reading up on it, I realized the thing that I really was afraid of wasn't the pain of giving birth. The fear was, I knew, somewhere in me knew, that there was no way I was going to be comfortable in a hospital ever. And if you're not comfortable, I don't care who you are, if you're not comfortable, and I've never given birth before, but I feel like I can say this, if you're not comfortable, or at least have some sort of peace of mind when you're in labor, there's no way you're going to like be relaxed. If you're not relaxed, then you're going to be tense, and that it's like a chain reaction, and it's going to affect the way you give birth. And so somewhere in me knew that there was no way in hell I was ever going to be 100% like calm or focused, or like, I just felt like that wasn't a possibility. Now I know that that is a possibility. I feel like it is completely possible for someone to have a hospital birth and still be able to focus and hone in on their body and not let all of the hospitalness get to them. But for me, I just knew that the only possible way I could give birth in a hospital would probably be to get an epidural, because like, I just knew I wouldn't be able to focus on myself and then also have all these doctors and nurses, and it's COVID, and hospitals just are always trying to do interventions, and it's just too much going on in the hospital. You know what I mean? Me and Adam were both making these decisions like together. We had a lot of conversations about like what we wanted. Even though I'm the one that has to give birth, he's been very involved in the whole process, and I wanted him to have just as much input. So he was all for the home birth. Like, once I like brought it up to him, I was like, what do you think? Is this something you would want? He was totally for it. We literally agreed on all, like, every point, every reason why I didn't want to be in the hospital. The too many interventions, the fact that Black women are 4 times more likely to die for pregnancy, labor related issues in a hospital than white women. Like, there's just so many different reasons. The fact that it's a pandemic, like, there were so many reasons, like, just lining themselves up in front of us. And once we talked about it, we were literally on the same page. We were like, we can do this at home. We don't need to go to the hospital. Like, there's no need for us to go to a hospital at all. Once we decided I wanted to have a home birth, I was already like probably like 20 something weeks. I want to say like 25 weeks. I'm not completely sure, but I was definitely like somewhere in the 20s, and it was getting kind of late. And so I knew I needed to like hurry up and jump on this, because these like things need to be put in place for when you have a home birth. Like I knew I would have to get a midwife. I knew I wanted a doula, and I knew that it was getting kind of late. So I had a conversation with this midwife. She couldn't be our midwife because she wasn't in state, but she basically just gave us a lot of advice, which was super helpful. She asked me some real tough questions. I remember one of the questions she asked me was, what are you gonna do if you feel like you're in too much pain? What are you gonna do if there's no epidural or no pain medication? You know, like these are serious things to think about. There's no turning back. If you're having a natural home birth, like yes, you can get up and say, okay, I changed my mind, I want to go to the hospital. But really, like once you're there, and you just have to push the baby out. And so yeah, she asked me that, and then she explained to me about the fear, pain, tension cycle. I believe that's what it's called. It's basically a cycle where like fear and pain and tension are all connected. She made it very clear that it was very important. It's okay to be afraid of things, but it's not okay to let fear take over your entire body and take over your entire experience. So pretty much my whole pregnancy, I've been working on eliminating fear from my mind, and I feel like I'm pretty successful. Like I really am not afraid to give birth, and I'm not trying to sound like super overconfident. Like yes, giving birth does make me nervous, and having a baby honestly makes me more nervous than like the pain of giving birth. But I just feel like pain is something that's so temporary. Like that's the number one question I get, like, oh my god, aren't you scared of the pain? Like aren't you scared of that? And it's like, I mean, yeah, no one wants to be in pain, but like what good is it gonna do me if I sit around being scared of it? I've never even had a baby before. It could not be that bad. It could be horrible, but like what is me sitting around in fear gonna do? It's only gonna make my body tense up. It's gonna make me less open to accepting the pain and accepting my birth, and it's just kind of pointless, because one way or another this baby has to come out, whether I'm afraid or not. So I had to kind of like get in that mindset, and it was not immediate. Like it took me a little while to kind of get there. So if you're someone who's in the same position, I highly recommend that you work on focusing on the positives and not like spend time being afraid of something like giving birth. The fact of the matter is, if everything goes as planned, you're gonna have a beautiful baby at the end of it, and that is your goal. That's your finish line. So that to me is worth any amount of pain in the world, and I'm sure any parents out there can attest to that. I'm sure giving birth was super hard for so many of you, and I'm sure your kid is worth it. So for me, I'm just focusing on that. I can't wait to meet my daughter, and that is what keeps me out of that fear, pain, tension cycle. You know what I mean? Because of COVID-19, I think a lot of people, especially in my area, I live in Maryland, a lot of women were deciding to have home births, because I swear to God, you guys, I reached out to so many midwives over the course of weeks. Everyone was booked. Like everyone was booked for August. It was impossible to find anyone. It was very late to me to be finding a midwife. My mom actually introduced me to my doula. Well, I knew her from childhood. She's someone that our family knew, and she is becoming a midwife, and right now she's a practicing doula. For those of you who may not know what a doula is pretty much like a birthing coach. The way my doula explains it is like the midwife is there for the baby. Pretty much you're focusing on the baby, the midwife's focused on the baby, your husband or your partner is focused on the baby, but the doula is there to be focused on you. And while everyone else is probably going to like focus on you some, the doula's primary job is to make sure you're good. And if you're good, chances are your baby's gonna be fine. So the doula is there to help you through, coach you through it, and make sure that, you know, you're getting everything you need. And I always knew that I really wanted a doula. I'm someone that just works better in a coach setting. Like I get better results when I have someone there pushing me. And yes, I'll have my husband and my mom, and I'll have a lot of support, but I really wanted to have a doula because I just feel like it's a good resource. She's very knowledgeable. I just feel like it's a good resource to have. Not 100% necessary for everyone. If that's not like something you're into, like don't feel like to have a home birth you need to have a doula. That's not true. it's just for me, I always knew, like way before I got married, I knew when I had a baby I wanted to have a doula. So that was like no question. So I hopped on a phone call with her instantly. Like, she's just so dope, she's so cool and chill, and immediately I was like, okay, I want her to be my doula. Like, I didn't even think twice about it, and I also just didn't have anyone else. So I was like, I mean, she's amazing, I'm gonna book her. I told her I didn't have a midwife. I was like, I'm really struggling to find one. And because she's becoming a midwife, she knows a lot of people, so she helped me so much. She instantly was like, okay, I got you. She reached out to so many people, she found my midwife, and yeah, she's just amazing. I reached out to the midwife, and you guys, honestly, I did something I probably would never do. I just booked her. I didn't meet her face to face before I booked her. I don't even think I talked to her on the phone. Like, I read up on her, I looked at her credentials, I spoke with her student. She trains other people, other women, to be midwives. She's kind of a top tier midwife. So I talked to my mom about it. I was like, Mom, like, should I just book this midwife? Like, I don't know. She was like, I mean, you don't have anyone else, and she doesn't seem bad, so just book her, and you know, you can deal with that later. So I just booked her. Turns out she's just amazing. Like, my midwife is so amazing, she's so cool, and I'm really happy that I chose her. And for those of you who are thinking about doing a home birth, there's some things that you want to make sure that you ask your midwife. You want to make sure you ask questions, because you want to make sure you and the midwife are on the same page. For example, a question that I asked my midwife was, you know, like, what would you do in the case of an emergency? You want to ask questions about payment. You want to ask questions about, in the case of this. Like, you really want to make sure you know where your midwife's head is at when it comes to that type of stuff. I'll leave some questions down below, like if you guys are struggling with, you know, finding a midwife, or you are interviewing midwives, I'll leave some questions that we ask down below so you can use them if you like. And just like that, I had a midwife and a doula within like 2 weeks. I didn't even meet my midwife in person for probably like another 3 weeks after that, because me and Adam were sick. I don't know if you guys remember, we both got sick, and whether you have COVID or not, like, it's just not the time to be around people that are sick, especially if you're a midwife. Like, so I told her that we were, you know, we weren't feeling well. It's just better to play it safe. So I think our first couple meetings, prenatal appointments, were over the phone. But eventually, you know, we started to meet in person, and I love my midwife appointments. Like, they're just so different from my OB appointments. I talked about this before, but like, my OB appointments were just very short and blunt, and I felt like I wasn't getting that really like personable relationship. It's a baby. Like, this is my baby, and I think I was expecting more than a pee in a cup, how are you feeling, let me take your blood pressure, okay, bye, type of situation, you know? Like, that's what I was getting at my OB. So with my midwife, I instantly noticed, like, she genuinely like cares about me and this baby. It's not like just her job. Like, she cares as a person, and she cares about educating me. Like, you guys, she taught me so much stuff. She made sure that I understood that everything was up to me and my husband, and we had complete and total control. I feel like in the hospital setting, and I'm not trying to bash anyone who decides to go the hospital route, please don't think that. I'm just explaining some concerns that I have with most hospital settings. In most hospital settings, I feel like they treat you like you have to do certain things. This may not be the case for all hospitals. I've heard a lot of women go to like amazing hospitals and they have amazing doctors. I'm not talking about those hospitals. I'm talking about the more general ones, the ones that like just try to force you to do things. Okay, you need to get Pitocin. Okay, you need to get this. Okay, well, we're gonna have to do a C-section. Okay, well, we're gonna have to give you this shot. Like, and they make it seem like you don't have a choice or any sort of say in what happens. They whisk your baby away right after the baby's born in most cases. Like, I just feel like for me, it was really refreshing to have someone explain, this is up to you. You're calling the shots and I'm here to help you. That's it. So yeah, instantly, like, I was like so happy. I was way happier after we got a midwife. Like, just in general, like, my mood, I felt so much more secure, and I felt like my baby was gonna be in good hands, and that's a really good feeling. That's pretty much the reason why we decided to go the home birth route. Just to sum it up, I feel like I'd be more comfortable in my own home. Y'all, I just want to take a shower. Like, after I give birth, I want to be able to lay in my own bed. I want to be able to just like chill. I'm not trying to be in no hospital where people are restricting me from eating, telling me I can't do stuff. I can't have nobody else in the room. But like, I think I might be able to have one person in the room. I think you have to wear a mask, and you definitely have to get tested for COVID. And it's just too much. Like, I just wanted to be in my own zen environment. And my husband is literally, we're right here. Like, we were both very, very excited about the prospect of just, you know, being in control of our environment when it's time for me to give birth. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my actual birth plan, like the one I wrote down. I'm not gonna go through my whole birth plan, but if you're making a birth plan, I suggest you do, whether you're having a hospital birth or a home birth. It's just helpful to have everything written down of what you would ideally like to happen. Obviously, like, your baby's gonna come when your baby's ready to come, and your birth plan might not go the way you wrote it down on paper, but it's good to have a guide. So that's what the birth plan is pretty much for. So in my birth plan, it's pretty much just in bullet form. That's how my midwife requested that I make it. It's just easier to read for her, so I made it in bullet form. It's simple bullets. First, I listed who will be present. I'm not planning on having, like, this is not about to be a party like, hey, come over, Yasmine's in labor. Like, no, I have specific people who will be there, who are allowed to be there. Not everyone is like required to be there, except for my midwife and my doula. But, you know, I have a list of people. So the list of people includes me and Adam's mothers. My mom and his mom are welcome to be there. I'm sure they'll both be there at some point. My doula, the midwife. I'm pretty sure the midwife is probably going to have a student with her, someone with her. I doubt it'll just be her by herself. And then my sister is coming. She's really only coming to take pictures because I wanted to have someone there, and I don't want to just hire a random photographer. I know where my sister has been. We're still in a pandemic, okay? Let's not forget. I'm gonna keep saying this. Like, I didn't want to hire a random photographer to come take pictures of me, you know? So my sister will probably be there to just document. I really want videos and pictures. Like, this is gonna probably be like one of the biggest days of my life, and I just want like documentation of it, you know? So for my birthing time or labor, we plan on using Hypnobirthing. So hypnobirthing is a method of pain management, and it can be used during labor and birth. It involves using a mixture of visualization, relaxation, and deep breathing techniques. That is my plan. Basically, we're using the Hypnobabies curriculum, but there's like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other hypnobirthing like classes you can take. So we ordered ours online. I think the class costs about like 150 bucks, something like that. It comes with all of the tracks you're gonna be listening to. I listen to the tracks now, and I'll be listening to them when it's my birthing time. So yeah, it's pretty much, it teaches you how to hypnotize yourself essentially, and not in like a voodoo way. Like, it's like, it's a more practical form of hypnotizing. It's a more practical form of hypnotizing. I've seen a lot of women use hypnobirthing in their births, and it just looks so like nice. Like, it didn't seem like they were in any less pain. Like, the purpose is not to take away the pain the way like an epidural would. You could tell that they were still in pain, but you could tell they were also managing their discomfort and riding it. Like, you know, that's all you can really do, and there's no other option. You have to accept that this is what it is. It just seemed like they were a lot more controlled in handling their pain management. And I've seen people give birth and they're like screaming and hollering, and they have literally no control, and they don't know how to breathe. And that's like what I want to avoid. I want to avoid like freaking out too much. I want to be able to control my pain. And so that is the reason I decided to go with Hypnobabies. So yeah, another thing I like about Hypnobabies, this is not like a sponsored Hypnobabies video, but I just like the language that they use. So for Hypnobabies, they basically switch the language that you use to talk about certain things. So for example, you say giving birth instead of delivery. It's funny because in the class it says pizzas are delivered, not babies. Instead of a contraction, you would say pressure wave or birthing wave. And I think that's just so, like, I never realized how like strong and negative the word contraction feels. Like, if you think about it, the word contraction actually sounds pretty scary, like really scary. If you say something like pressure wave, a wave is something that gets really intense and then it subsides. So it kind of is a reminder that it's not gonna last forever. A contraction sounds like literally someone's killing you. It's like, no wonder people are so like freaked out about giving birth. And that's like the only thing I hear people talking about, because I feel like the language surrounding it is just so like, it makes it sound like such a burden. It just sounds like a chore, you know? So instead of labor, hypnobabies, they say birthing time. Instead of pain, they say discomfort. The way that you speak about certain things really does impact the way you think about it subconsciously. Even if you're not doing hypnobabies or hypnobirthing, I suggest you guys try to change the language you use and the way you speak about your birth. Like, the way you anticipate it and the way you refer to it in everyday conversation plays a big part too. And my advice to you would just be to try to be more positive when it comes to talking about giving birth. If someone tries to come up to you and tell you their labor horror stories or something, like, do not let people tell you negative things before you give birth. Like, it's not going to help you at all. That doesn't mean that that's going to be your experience just because someone else had a crappy birth, you know? So just try to be positive and try to like keep out negativity. Don't let family members try to scare you. Don't let people like bring negativity into your mind when it comes to giving birth to your child. In my birth plan, I have included like just a whole bunch of things that I would like. So for example, I would like to use water as another form of pain management. I want to be able to have water available if I would like to give birth in water. That's the plan. I want to give birth in water, but I just don't know what's going to happen. So maybe I won't be comfortable in the water, you never know. So in there I put, I want to give birth in whatever position is comfortable for me, which is kind of like, duh, like no one's gonna force me to give birth in an uncomfortable position. I just put it in there. I put that I want to do immediate skin to skin. I want to delay the cord clamping, cord cutting. I would like to use breathing, different positioning, birth ball music, or aromatherapy for different comfort measures. I want to stay as active as possible. I would like to keep the room really dimly lit when I'm giving birth. And I want to speak more of my comfort level than my discomfort level. So I want like everyone to like when they're asking me things like how are you feeling or things, I want them to focus on how comfortable I am and not how uncomfortable I am, if that makes sense. Just stuff like that. Like for your birth plan, just make sure you put in things, even if it sounds like obvious, just put in things that you want to happen. Ultimately, I feel like having one really helps when it comes to anything. Having a plan really helps. So let's talk about money. Having a home birth is not cheap. I'm not gonna say it's like completely outrageous, but it's definitely not cheap. So you want to make sure that if you are planning on having a home birth, that you have some savings, or you definitely talk to your insurance before, because a lot of insurance companies will cover your home birth. So our insurance company covers like pretty much most of our midwife fees. They don't cover doulas though. That was something that we had to like pay for ourselves. Doulas can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. So our doula is pretty reasonably priced. It is like a big fee. So you want to make sure that you have saved money and you are, you know, you talk about that because it's a big part of it. I mean, even still, our midwife, we have to pay her out of pocket right now, and then we get reimbursed later. So it's definitely just not cheap. And then you're also getting ready for the baby too. Like there's already so many other things that we had to buy. So it's just really important to like really think about your finances when it comes to having a home birth. We had to buy things for the actual home birth. We had to order a kit. I had to make sure I had everything that I needed for a water birth, because that costs a little bit extra. I had to make sure that, you know, I just had everything. And yeah, it's not cheap, but it's definitely doable, I think. And I think if you really want to do it and you really like are serious about it, I think there's always a way to make it work. I hope that answers you guys' questions about my plans for my birth, and I'm really excited. Like, I get people asking me all the time, like, oh my god, are you nervous? Like, how do you feel? I'm so excited, you guys. I cannot wait until I give birth. I can't wait till she's here. Like, I'm so anxious to meet her. I have been getting like mild pressure waves for the past few days. I've been timing them. They're very, very mild though, and I'm definitely not in labor because I just got my cervix checked and it's completely closed. So I'm not in labor or anything, but I have been feeling my body like prepare for labor, and it's so exciting. It's just crazy. Like, our bodies are crazy. It's crazy that women can do this. It's just so cool to me. And yeah, it literally could be any day. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated. Right now it's looking like she's not gonna make an appearance anytime soon, which is fine. It gives me more time. I'm trying to really like soak up as much of this time as I can. Not that like when she comes it'll be like the end of something. It'll definitely be the end of my previous life, which I'm not upset about, but it's just like I'm never gonna be able to really take a nap whenever I want or just like lay around all day, and it's just gonna be like a really big transition. So I haven't been super active on socials. I feel like I've been active enough, but I've really just been taking it super easy. Y'all, I get tired so quick now. And yeah, so I'm gonna try my best to film and keep you guys updated. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, just trying to prepare for our little one to make her grand appearance, which is literally gonna be like in 2 weeks tops. She's gonna be here, and I can't believe it, and I can't wait to share how everything went. I'm definitely gonna be doing a story time on how my birth went, so you guys, you know if it aligned with my birth plan or not. If any of you guys out there are pregnant or expecting soon, I pray that you have the best rest of your pregnancy, and I hope that you have a super amazing, safe birth resulting in a super healthy, happy baby or babies. Just stay positive and stay happy, and I will see you guys in my next video.